Greetings, citizens. I am your host, Jay Voodoo Child, and let's talk some Star Citizen. So, it is now a week after CitizenCon for 2024. And last weekend, I was feeling very hopeful for the future of the game. We got some insights on how they wish to structure things for launch, which is what they're calling 1.0. And there was a big emphasis on having meaningful gameplay for all types of characters, whether you are playing PvP, PvE, or as they say, non combat. Now, I think non combat and PvE are the same thing, but I guess the versus thing they wanted to distinguish. Still, that's good that they have made that distinguish that. They are creating systems for people that don't want to shoot at anything. Will feel good about playing Star Citizen. And they also emphasize that they wish that a solo player can get meaningful content out of the game, as well as multiplayer. And then showed off some, aspects of the game for both players in what they are deeming progression. For the solo players, there is a storyline that you can go through, and at the end of the storyline, you'll get citizenship, and that comes with it certain perks. One of those perks is having access to a warranty that you can apply to a crafted or in-game purchased or basically acquired vehicle. You can put a warranty on that as if it was purchased from the pledge store on its crowdfunding phase. And so that's very interesting. They also talked about basically their version of dungeons where you and or a team, depending on the circumstance, can go through stages and unlock new areas to come across harder content to get better loot. And so there's going to be several of those around the universe. And we are going to start with 5 citizens and eventually grow to the stretch goal of 100 as far as fully fleshed out systems. They still may meet the requirements of that stretch goal by naming each of the 100 systems and to say we'll work on them, we'll flesh them out when we get to that point. But for now, we're starting with 5 systems, and oh, by the way, we have more than the points of interest that we were thinking would be possible with 100 systems. We've now crammed all of that into 5 systems. So you're actually getting more content than what we were promising you. That message has gotten lost on some people. That's fine. This week, as you can see right here, there were some letdowns coming out of the convention. And, granted, I understand the convention is rah-rah. It's marketing. It's meant to get people on the hype train. And they spend a lot of money to make that happen. So they need to get things out of it. CIG is a for-profit business at the end of the day. Yes, Chris Roberts is making his magnum opus, his legacy game that he wishes to go down with other big game developers like Sid Meier's or others. And, this is his avenue. So that's his personal thing. And also he has a nice retirement package through, all the fundraising that has taken place and will continue to, and post-launch, all the money that's coming in, profits, whatever. So he and his family are good. And, they're now, I forget how many hundreds of employees. But, certainly they are wishing to earn a living and all that good stuff. So I get the trickle down economies. Um, Personally, I have some issues about how much the higher echelons take because eventually it's coming out of my pocket because I'm a customer. But at least in this format, I'm pledging. I'm making the choice of how much to spend, and I've already spent way too much money on this. So don't get me wrong on that. I mean, I've certainly been on the hype train. I'm still on the hype train, and in a month, IAE is coming out, and I will be spending some money to make these adjustments that I'm doing. And I originally had a goal of trying to fill in all my chains. So changes like to the ghosts, the price changes that they jumped won't mess up chains because I have open spaces in my, between two links. So I was trying to resolve that, but the convention really reset all my previous thinking. And I really had to start from square one to say, okay, now I know their vision, or at least I know better their vision at launch. How do I position myself with the gross amount of pledge money that I've already spent to enjoy the game given my experiences with other MMOs and how I played those, what did I end up doing in those, and how can I position myself to enjoy the game as much as possible. And let me touch on one aspect here that I've mentioned before in other videos. I view pledging as spending money up front to not grind in the game. So if I spend, I forget the amount of money, but $110 to get a Cutlass Black, I don't have to spend time in game building up my income or my bank account in order to purchase that in game. I can start from day one, and basically I've traded 110 real dollars, so I don't have to spend that time to get that asset in game. And basically I equate everything in the game as a function of time. How much time will it take for me to reach that goal? And if I can get a more efficient way of spending money to save myself time, that's my approach. And that's why I'm not a big fan of LTI. It's not that I don't appreciate its effects. It's just I think the amount of time that you save with LTI is significantly less than the time you can save by starting your chains with a game package. What probably upsets me the most is just how LTI is the default must have. Some may even call it FOMO, that the community at large focuses on, to the exclusion of everything else. And even though I try and bring up the subject, I get shot down hard a lot of the times. And that gets frustrating, but that's part of the origin story of my Star Citizen content on my channel. Is I wanted a platform to say what I wanted to say, to articulate it to, and like I was talking about spreadsheets in the first video of the series, putting things on a spreadsheet or talking about them to you, the audience, kind of helps me better frame my arguments, to better articulate, what I'm trying to do. And, it's about polishing my message and, taking a different approach to how I deliver that to maybe get through a little further to people. The latest community I've joined with Billionaire Ninjas on his Discord service, I've gotten practically no pushback on my ideas, and I've actually started to impact people to say, okay, I might try this thing. Or, I've always had a couple game packages sitting around. Maybe I will utilize them based on, ideas that you are bringing to my attention that I never considered before. People are looking at, okay, what is my situation? And does this make sense or does that make sense? And just kind of pick and choose what is best for them. And that's the most I can hope for, because everyone's situation is different. And, I would like for you to enjoy this game as much as possible, to have that money that you are spending for this entertainment to be of value, to be equal or vastly more than if you spent that money elsewhere to do some other form of entertainment. And that's one of the justifications I have for the amount of money I have pledged to this game is, we looked up, we got into this discussion one night, and I looked up what a season ticket would cost for me on my local football team for American football. And, seats in the corner halfway up the stadium were more expensive for, I forget how many home games there was this particular year, than what I've already spent in 8 years of Star Citizen. So, when you start looking at that and what I could spend if football was my thing and I wanted to root for the home team, I could spend that kind of money just for the ticket. That doesn't involve all the time to get there and back through traffic and, all the merchandise I would be buying. Any of that stuff is added on to that just seat. So, I'm in that light, I am comfortable with what I've put into this game. My focus will be kind of going forward is trying to build up a nest egg to build a really good system, a gaming rig that I can really play the game at the upper echelon of technology, but also be able to stream that and share that with the community and, kind of try and develop that side of things for the community. Because as a lifetime gamer during the internet age, I have more friends online than I do in person. And so a lot of my social elements is online. And, being able to expand upon that and embrace a Star Citizen community and be a part of that is something I'm interested in. So, that hopefully will be coming, at some point. But as I said, during the week, we got some bad news. And for me, this particular post is the worst of it. And it is disappointing, but I am so grateful that I know this right now. Because hearing all the new things about 1.0 during the convention, I was already in the mindset of, okay, I need to go back to the drawing board. But having this a couple days later, it's says, okay, it's not quite what I imagined, merging the new information from the convention with how I've been building up my account based on the 2013 blog, um, multiple package clarification. I was still using those elements very heavily into what I heard would be the environment for 1.0 and kind of embracing a solo mindset. And I'll explain that in a little bit. But now, based on this post, I'm able to say, okay, well, launch isn't going to be as nice as I thought it would be. How do I account for that? How do I account for day one? I'm not going to have any AI blades, but I'm still going to have a captain for each of my chains because I start them with game packages. And so that ship, that vehicle, is going to have a captain to it. So that's my day one reality. Okay. How do I make it possible to have my friends involved? What's a kind of a workaround to providing myself crew members through my friends without having possessing in the game? And then how do I transition when NPCs come into the game? And hopefully that does not just mean hireable NPCs, that'll also mean extra digital downloads as NPCs. How do I migrate into that situation for kind of my ultimate thing? And does that mean at that point that possessions are possible? So there's this kind of whole thing that is like, okay, there are several steps I need to put into place for my day one launch, but also reach out into whenever these systems do come online after launch. I'm already positioned in the way to account for those changes. And again, provided everything that's in the 2013 blog, comes true. And I understand that, changes will take place when a plan gets to the development stage and they say, okay, we really can't do this. Hopefully it's nowhere near the problems of like server meshing is. I mean, that's a huge game-changing thing that they've spent years trying to crack that puzzle to do what they want to do. And they've done it now. It was so important for them that they took the time to make it happen the way that they wanted it to happen. Possessing other players' extra digital downloads as a way to quickly group up may not be as important when everything else is a factor. So they may not spend a whole lot of time saying, okay, well, we ran into a problem. We really can't do this the way we thought. Do we work through that? Or do we just say, we might get to it later? And then that turns out to be never at all. That is entirely a possibility. But again, I want to position myself to quote unquote always have an exit plan to say, if what I think is going to happen doesn't actually happen, then I can make these adjustments to my situation, my hangar, my pledge money, to account for those changes. Now, let me pause here for a moment. Something that I have not mentioned at all or recently is that all of my chains are unimplied right now. And that again is my exit strategy. When something changes to a ship, like, the Redeemer, I guess, is a good example. When they went through with the component rebalancing, the Redeemer got nerfed in lots of ways component wise. It got boosted on performance wise, but that's less important for me. And also, it was in a weird place for me as far as what its role would be for me and how I would utilize it. And but it had a lot of sentimental value because someone gave me a gift of a $10 upgrade that turned out to be $90 worth of value. And he did that because he was the guy that was trying to train me, teach me the CCU upgrade. And at that point, my goal was to get an Endeavor. So he gave me the CCU because he knew it was going to jump in price. And that would be a nice sizable link for me with getting into an Endeavor. But when I was sitting on that link, it was like, this is a gift, and do I want a combat ship? And is this the combat ship that I wanted? And the more I started asking those questions, is like, okay, it may not be the ship that I would normally choose, but since it was a gift, I'm going to keep it. And so, that generosity that someone showed me, it was like, I wanted to value that. I wanted to honor that. And so the changes to the components, and it's like, ugh, this is going even further away of what I think is going to be useful and enjoyable. And it took me about a week, but I dropped it from my fleet and some of the changes that I was making at that time. And I just said, okay, it's going to be a $90 link at this point. And I would honor that person by naming the Endeavor after them to say, this is because of you, So that was that. But all of my chains right now are unapplied. I'm now at 13 game packages, I believe. So I've got 3 Mustangs. These were my very first game packages. And I went with the Mustangs instead of the Auroras because at that time, the Auroras, I believe, were $25 or something like that. Or the Alpha was $35 and then it got reduced to $30, something like that. There was a $5 difference, I thought, with upgrading. And at that point, I was planning on upgrading those, using packages even back then, because when I started pledging back in 2017, I said 13 in the last video, but in 17, again, the 2013 blog that I discovered through researching this game wasn't that old as far as, development time for a new game in alpha. The hover quad, I have picked this up this week. This is a referral bonus that I could not melt or gift away. And so I opened up a third alt account. So I now have 4 accounts. 1 with the hover quad and 2 with the MPV cargo. And this happened like 3 years ago. There was a special. I have the ATLS. This was slated to be the LTI token for Abandoned Merchantman. And when I was trying to plan previously, I wanted to self-crew Abandoned Merchantman. That was going to be my in-game content, just to get all my characters onto there, or at least most of them, and just fly around the universe being a traveling merchantman, trading with different communities, going to the next one, trading with them. But I knew it was a big ask, or a big hope, I should say, that CIG would allow 10 characters on a single account, which is what I figured I'd need for the Banner Merchantman being a max crew of 8, and then having a Defender in the hangar, having that synergy, or at least this, I don't have to do the reputation grind again, trading money for time and gain. By getting the only 2 Banu Merchantman ships, or Banu ships in the game, or excuse me, vehicles. And that was going to be my thing. As I said in the last video, there's a moment like a week before the convention. It's like, I'm sacrificing a lot trying to load everyone into this Banner Merchantman, and is that really going to be all I want to do eventually in the game? And the more I questioned about that, I was more like, okay, I may want to do something different. I may want to position these characters in other things. That way I can have more variety all the time and just kind of go with that. And so I was already kind of on the fence as far as, is the Banner Merchantman needed? But all along, again, always have an exit plan. Going back to the exit strategy sheet, which I was showing in the last video. If CIG didn't have 10 characters on an account, then any lesser amount, that Banu Merchantman was getting sold on the gray market. And again, the community is this wild about LTI tokens. And so even if I had an LTI game package, the person buying it would likely not care at all that it had a game package to it. So for that one, since it was very likely that, not likely, but this is, if I'm going to sell anything, it's going to be the Banner Merchantman. I decided to put that on a LTI token. And before the ATLs came along, and actually before the Pulse came along, I was thinking about putting the Banu Merchantman and the Nox and the Defender on a Nox 2-pack that I have, that I got back in the day. So these are LTI, and I said, okay, if I'm going to sell the BMM, I'm going to sell the BMM and Defender in a game pack, 2-pack, and that way the person buying it would get the only 2 Banu ships in the game. And, that would be a kind of different wrinkle. But the problem is that, and before I really knew about the CC minigame, I melted this pack. And then I brought it back with the credits. So right now, this is not giftable in my account. And if I was to sell the Banner Merchantman, then I would have to melt it again and buy back with money and basically lose all the value that I gained by getting this at concept and with a 2-pack. Certainly I could recoup that loss by selling it, but that would mean the price would be higher and maybe less desirable for a sale. Particularly since I'm a brand new seller, I have no history of selling or, not scamming people. And so they might be a little more resistant for buying my stuff when they might find something safer, albeit more expensive. And just having the both together, maybe people only want the, Merchantman, but not the Defender. So when the ATLs came along, I went and got this as an LTI token. Also, I figured during that period of time before I had to commit all my chains, I could enjoy, a power loader for messing around with, game stuff in the meantime. So, that kind of worked out. But I still haven't melted this for credits now that I no longer need it for the start of Banu vehicles. I have two C8X, and these are both with game packages. The cutter, this is an LTI game package. The X1/4 I got back, I think 2018, maybe late 2017. No, it had to be 18, I would say. When this came out in concept, and again, I was on the LTI bandwagon myself, so I picked up all three X1s as single packs, standalones. And the other two I've melted to kind of come up with credits to do other things I was doing early on. I believe the X1 Force is the only one I've not melted. I'm not sure whether this is giftable or not, but it's still in my hangar. And then the Avenger Titan, I got one early in the year, I want to say. There was a very good package deal on a Titan, and it also came with 15,000 in starting credits instead of the typical one. But also to get this referral hover bike and creating that fourth account, that third alt, I went ahead and got the CitizenCon. I forget the years, but anyway, this year's CitizenCon starter pack special for the Titan, because it comes with a full armor set, a backpack, and a sniper rifle, along with 15K. And that works out for my new plans. And so this is how, and I had to spend at least $40 to activate the account to get the referral bonus before Halloween. And then I have two LTI Isulians, and then the Nomad I picked up at the same time that I got the ATLS. At that point, there was the Jackal package. And so this Nomad came with the vehicle, a paint maybe, I forget, the game package for really cheap, I want to say less than $5, maybe $5. And then a set of armor, which previously I did not have any armor, and I figured I'd want to have one. I have my issues with armor, and I've covered in a short, because I think right now there's no easy way to replace it, and even store-bought armor is non-replaceable. And so I just figured that would be a nice way of putting a target on my head to say, oh yeah, that's a cool armor set. Let me kill them and take it from them, and now it's mine. But I wanted to have one armor set on my starting thing, just to kind of, again, save time by not having to farm to get to that level of, gameplay that I'm looking for. So these are all the ships that are in my hangar that are flyable today. And should I get into the game, I'm still not playing. But my approach is just to bounce around to different Ds and, earn my way up to the other things that I want to test out or have around when those game loops get fleshed out, to see whether that gameplay is still interesting to me. But I was not going to upgrade any of these, particularly these referrals, because those are locked in, until I was going to wait until CIG says, okay, we're getting close to launch. It's time to lock your chains, make your final selections, and then we're going to go. at that point, I would reshuffle all my Warbond CCUs, all the CCUs from concept. I'd get all that stuff together and organized to, you know, to allocate as much savings and then use the remaining credits for, buying standalone um, character slots if I still wanted them, or just having the options. So that was my approach there. We're sitting at 35 minutes, so I'm going to end this episode right here. And then I'm going to immediately jump in to kind of get in what I've done with this past week and where I am in my thinking, restarting going back to the drawing board and what has come from that. And so, hey, thank you all for watching, but subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified of when that video drops. Even though you probably watching this years later. And it will have been already dropped and available for you to see. But if you like this content, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Hearing how one person views the game, if that's helpful for you, that's all I can ask for. And please share with me your comments about, hey, have you thought about this? And this share with me your perspective, and hopefully we can learn more and from each other, and again make better decisions than for ourselves given our own unique situations. So do all that. But certainly I wish to feed the algorithm, but genuinely, I mean, I am far more interested in having conversations with people and learning more about how people view this game, even though many times that's frustrating to me. This is a very small channel. I am picking up subscribers here and there, but certainly I'm not anywhere near making money off of ads or anything like that. That's not the purpose of this channel. It'd be nice, it'd be helping out on the computer budget. But it's certainly not necessary. And I just wish to have a constructive conversations with people and grow in my knowledge. My channel is strictly focusing on CCU chains and particularly how do you start them, what are the ramifications, and how do we deal with the shifting sands that is development of Star Citizen. So we'll get more into that on the next video. So again, do all the stuff, please. And thank you all for watching, and take care. We'll see you in the next one.